order to come and teach us, oh Lord. We commit them into your hand and we pray for your covering over their lives.
total adoration to you. You reign in all your throne, for you are God and God alone. Because of you, my clouded days are gone. I can sing to you this song. I just wanna say that I love you more than anything. I love you, Jesus. I worship and adore you. Just wanna tell you, Lord, I love you more than anything. I love you, Jesus. I worship and adore you. Just wanna tell you, Lord, I love you more than anything. Lord, I love you more than anything. Let's do it better for her. Aren't you happy to be here? Thank you all. On behalf of Pastor Albert and Comfort Okran, I welcome you all to the International Central Church, ICGC, and to our Practical Christianity Hangouts. I welcome everyone worshiping in person here at ICGC and our online worshipers from all over the world, especially you. The Practical Christianity Hangouts is designed by the New Wine Temple in response to the philosophy of ICGC, which highlights practical Christianity as its first pillar. I know we all have expectations for tonight, so I want to know your expectations for tonight. Can I know your expectation for tonight?
I'm expecting to be blessed tonight.
Okay, so he is expecting to be blessed. Who again? I'll pinpoint if you don't own up. Can I know your expectations for tonight?
I'm expecting to be blessed.
Okay, so they are all expecting to be blessed. I guess this side, all of you are expecting to be blessed. So let me move to this side. All right. Can I know your expectations for tonight? All right. Sweethearts, can I know your expectations for tonight? All right. So I guess everyone is expecting to be blessed tonight. So I would like to hear your expectations just as I heard from you. You are blessed and you are expecting to be blessed, I guess. Now let's welcome our host. Okay, so I still want to know your expectations for tonight. Can I know your expectations? Oh, why are you doing that? Auntie Ayona, can I know your expectations?
Yeah, I'm expecting so much, especially about education.
Okay, so she's expecting so much about education. Who else? Who? All right. Yeah, sweetheart, can I know your expectation?
On the flyer, they said education as a leveler. Understanding the seven. Use this. Okay. On the flyer, I can see that they are talking about education as a leveler, understanding the seven mountains. So I'm expecting the speakers to tell me the kind of mountains they are coming to talk about.
That's beautiful. Who else? All right.
I want to know about the education ladder.
The education ladder. She wants to know about the education ladder. Good. Who else? All right.
Okay, for my expectation tonight, I want to know more about the seven mountains and how to impact it in my life.
That's great. Very, very great. Who else? Well, these are very beautiful expectations, and I'm very sure they will be met this night. Now, can we welcome our host pastor? He is a minister of the gospel, an author, executive coach, and business leader. Your pastor, my pastor, Pastor Albert Okran.
Thank you very much. Karen, when I grow up, I'll speak like you. Round of applause for Karen. So welcome once again to day number 3 of our season 1 PCH for the year. It's a very interesting journey trying to understand the 7 mountains that control society and how to climb step by step all the way to the top. It's unbelievable how when somebody who has experience spends a few moments with you, they can put in your hands a key that would make a 10-year journey look like a 1-year journey. How many of you believe that there's experience in this room tonight? Experience. How many want to learn something new tonight? Okay. So what have we been trying to do? We've been trying to set out the 7 mountains that control society. And for each of them, bring people that have garnered rich experience in those areas to have a conversation with us about the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, the known, the unknown, the seen and the unseen of these mountains. The objective is to equip you with the tools to climb all the way to the top. As I often say, after sitting in these sessions, when I see you next 5 years at Amsterdam Schiphol Airport and you're on your way back from Singapore Airport, but you have to make one last trip to Dallas Airport before you come to Accra, Ghana, I will say, yeah, it's happening. If you believe, you put your hands together, that you can become a global citizen doing business all across the world. In our first session last 2 weeks, we touched on an overview of the 7 mountains and what we call marketplace ministry. Just trying to establish that the same way you expect the pastor to be anointed, a pilot, a lecturer, an educationist, a farmer can be anointed as well. We used the scriptures to show ourselves that we have what it takes to rise to the top of the ladder or the mountain in any area of our choice. Before I continue, let me acknowledge the council member responsible for economic empowerment who oversees this function, Mr. Setkwe. Let's appreciate him. Seth, good to see you. Thank you very much. So it's an initiative of the church to deliberately empower our members to have the tools and the keys to be able to rise to the top. As you know by now, here at the New Wine Temple, we believe in the holistic development of the person spiritually, relationally, socially, professionally, financially, in your health and every area of your life. Last week, we did a conversation about education and lifelong learning, the power of education and lifelong learning. It was very instructive as Professor Bill Popolampo shared the various dimensions of the subject. Today, we move on to another explosive angle in our conversation about education. That subject is too big to be covered in 2 days, but we are certain about one thing. Today, we'll answer the question that has been on my mind for a long time: education as a leveler. And I won't try to take the wind out of the sails of my guests, but one thing I can tell you is that we want to show how no matter where you come from, you can rise to become somebody by the power of education. So my first guest will speak for 15 minutes on the subject, followed by my second guest, who would also share for 15 minutes, and then I get to take this seat and ask them all the difficult questions on my mind since I was a child. Please make me one promise. These are very significant achievers, so don't ask them easy questions. Write down the most difficult questions you can find for my guests, and they will deliver. If you believe so, put your hands together for them. I forgot to tell you, I didn't say put your hands together ordinarily. I meant a new wine hand clap. All right, are you ready? Tonight, I'm honored to have, speaking first, somebody I truly, deeply respect and appreciate as one of the people building this country on the quiet. Very influential woman. The last time she was here in an official capacity, she was picking up an award as one of the awardees at our East Legon convocation for a contribution to education in this country. She was here last Sunday visiting with her whole institution. She is the founder and president of the Design and Technology Institute, DTI Ghana, a social enterprise educational institution located here in Accra, Ghana. One of the things that attracts us to DTI is not just the partnership that we have, but how leadership and creativity and the force of perseverance has transformed TVET from being that thing that you do when you have nothing else to do to the thing that now everybody wants to do. And it's just leadership, and leadership. She's the founder of Accents and Arts, and I am a proud client. And she's also the founder and president of the Design and Technology Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Constance Elizabeth Swaniker.
Thank you very much. Well, good evening, and very excited to see a number of our learners here. So this evening is all actually about you. So I'm going to be sharing something that you will see for the first time. A number of our stakeholders and actually the people that we haven't worked with haven't seen before. But we learn from you just as much as you learn from us. And I always say that I've walked in your shoes before. And so I know you much better than you may think. But there's so much that when we're doing research in academic, data tells everything. Especially when we're working towards influencing policy. and helping shape educational systems that we feel that will drive the country forward. And so I'd like to share something with you just to frame my conversation. And because I'm an artist, I like to see things very visually. And so I'll share a few slides that I would speak to. And then when it comes to the Q&A, I'm happy to also answer any questions that you have. And so this is our school. For those of you who have the privilege to be a learner at DTI. But this is a TVET school. And when I was thinking of building a technical school, I thought that what sort of school would I build that I would love to go? And so when we sat down with the architects, I said that, well, I went to KNUST and I studied art. And because we were artists, we were given the worst building on campus. And all our mates laughed at us because our assignments pretty much was sitting under trees and drawing things. They thought we were mad, right? And so right from university, even though I was in university, our colleagues looked down on us because I was studying something that was not as prestigious as those who were studying social science or any of those things. But fast forward, I work in an industry that if I am not at the table at the beginning, you can bring all the drawings or everything that you want me to do, and I will tell you that, did you think of this and that at the design stage? And so again, this goes to the perception of people like us who, I met one of my colleagues earlier that we're supposed to be designers. And we're designing blueprints, and I'm giving you an artist's impression of what you want me to design, but I wasn't at the table. So we work in an industry where I work with mostly architects and engineers and people that I had met on my academic journey, but nobody took interest in us. And so fast forward, when I decided that no, Ghana needs an institution that would really build a country, because I had been in industry for the past 25 years. And the sort of clients that we were doing work for meant that I was doing very high-end projects. And most of the people that we're working with were experts. We were working on projects where the whole site would be full of Chinese or Italians or you name it, and basic jobs that Ghanaians should be doing. We were the only local contractors. And so again, the perception of, TVET or anything that meant that you were using your hands, competency-based learning, meant that people looked down on us. And so this is the school. We have quite a number of our learners here who could have gone to medical school or could have done law. But thankfully, you saw the light, right? And you took a chance because you've seen what a good quality education can give you. So to young people who are coming out of institutions who are not finding jobs, your reality is that the jobs that are out there looks like overalls, right? And we work in industries where you cannot be an engineer and you're a book engineer. And so we've created opportunities that will give access to any young person who believes in the sort of education that the country needs. And so speaking to the topic, if I may go to the next slide, please. This is what it looks like to train one good worker for the world of work. And so we looked at one young person, that's our learner in the middle, and you find that core academics and the hands-on lessons, which we do because we practice the dual TVET system, is only just about 20% of the learning. 80% centers around what it looks like to provide or to churn out a well-trained young person fit for the world of work. And so you find that the critical soft skills, which is the challenge program, your interpersonal skills program, and then the role of the clinical psychologist to support your emotional well-being, co-curricular activities that we insist that you do, And then, of course, we provide student housing. You have the spiritual side of what we do. That's why we insist that you come to church as well. Very, very, very integral to your wellness, safeguarding, and medical health. So you see a bit of everything that you do pictorially mapped out, right? Have I left anything out? So this maps out what it looks like, right? And this is the education that we provide at DTI, holistic and inclusive education. Now, I would say that currently 80% of our learners come from very interesting backgrounds in 16 regions across Ghana. And we deliberately travel around the length and breadth of Ghana looking for amazing young people who would meet our scholarship criteria and our admissions criteria. Because the cost of tuition that we provide for a private school would be out of the reach of a lot of you, right? But we don't believe in free as well, because we believe that as young people, I think my mantra is that I don't owe you anything, right? But opportunities are out there because you want to grab them. And so we're looking for young people that are hungry and will take up opportunities, because the level of investment that it takes for one young person this is what it looks like. The number of staff who are dedicated to providing what a good holistic education looks like. And so in creating access to all young people, we have students from very remote parts of Ghana. You find a student that has 9 A's, 2 B's, but because of a lack of opportunity, would be stuck in the community that they come from. And why we handpick you is that we're very much aware of the multiplier effect of what a young person who has gone through the soft education, when they go back into their communities, you see the multiplier effect. And so I'd like to go to the next slide, that you see that the sort of young people that come in are abled, big on gender, they come from rural areas, semi-rural urban areas. We don't discriminate at all. And so in looking at what lifelong learning looks like, you notice that I didn't use the map of Ghana, right? But I used the globe of the entire world. We're very much also in tune and mindful that when a young person comes from an area where they may not necessarily have been used to what you know, because your campus is located in East Legon, right? Sometimes the cultural shock of bringing young people into an environment that they're not used to. We have learners who would ask you that, Madam, am I supposed to sleep on the bed? I don't know what to do with the bed because I've been used to sleeping on a mat, right? And so the role of the clinical psychologist walking this journey with you means that in your challenge program, these are topics that we discuss, right? Cultural shock and all those sort of things that if you say you're creating inclusive education and you're not mindful that I'm not as confident as a young person who these things is something that they're used to. We walk that journey with you. And you find that sometimes in trying to provide inclusive education, we overlook what it looks like. And so you actually even have parents who come in and they tell you that, hey, can I even walk through the doors? Does my child deserve to come to a place like this? Sometimes you serve students to a meal, they'll sit behind the plates and break down and they'll cry. Because they'll tell you that I've left 7 siblings at home and you are giving me food like this, and what would my siblings be eating? Right? We've seen it all. And so we're very, very mindful that in providing inclusive education, these are things that, you know, you are walking a journey with them, that when we go to schools like Tema International School and Miss Adeline is here, you're confident. You know, we've embedded in you all those soft skills that gives you a seat at the table. You go home and your parents will ask you in one term, what did we do to you? And so you find that the importance of even soft skills is so crucial in providing inclusive education. The hands-on, as I showed you, the education part of it, you can teach that to anybody. These are things that in providing inclusive education, how do we crucially walk your journey with you? And coming back to the fact that I tell you that nobody owes you anything, what I tell you is that you owe it to your communities that you come from. If we've given you an opportunity, you are to go back and also uplift the communities that you've left behind. We also encourage you to go back to the communities that you come from, right? And so we are also very deliberate in ensuring that when we're placing you in work, we're looking at how this opens up to opportunities all over Ghana. And this is why we believe that providing quality education will rather take small numbers and invest so much in you that by the time you go out there, we see the ripple effect spreading all over. And so in short, this is just what it looks like to provide inclusive and holistic learning to some of the learners that we have here today. Thank you.
Constance, you must have gotten 100% in summary when you were in school. Round of applause for her. They call this setting the tone for the conversation. Let me find out, did one word hit you in this presentation? One word. Before we even invite our next speaker. One word, yes. Holistic. Anybody else? One word that has touched you so far. One word that has hit you from Constance's presentation. She says holistic, yes. Inclusive. These are big themes that can form the subject for the whole discussion. Holistic, inclusive. Yes. I saw a hand up, yes.
Nobody owes you, but you owe your community.
Pardon?
Nobody owes you anything, but you owe your community.
In fact, I will put a hyphen between those words. Nobody owes you anything. That's a big question I'll ask you when you come back. Nobody owes you anything. In a world that we love free, she says nobody owes you anything. And yet, she's providing probably the biggest access to vulnerable people. And yet she says no one owes you nothing. Is that a contradiction? Reflect on it for a minute. Right. I saw another hand up here. Yes.
Quality.
What's the word?
Quality.
Quality. So we've heard inclusive. We've heard holistic. We've heard nobody owes you anything, which is one word. And we've heard quality. Francis, one word. My Valentine, stand by. Your word is next. My Valentine, your word is next. Francis, one word from you. So far.
Well, I'll say not a word, more like a sentence. Establishing confidence in the youth, irrespective of where they come from.
Confidence. That's beautiful. Comfort. One word.
My word would be all-encompassing.
All-encompassing. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Think about your word. Yes, your word is. I want you to warm up because today will be very special. So the one word is a warmer. Yes. Shout a word at me. You get a prize for that.
Mine is not a word, but
What's it?
it's
A
a
thought?
sentence, yes.
A sentence. Fire.
So it's about soft skill being a crucial thing. That
Soft
plays a very big role in quality education and also in the world, in the work
In the workplace.
industry, yeah.
Right. What's the first name?
Patience.
Patience. Thanks for
Yes.
being patient with us. So have you noticed that from this side, I got a couple of words. From this side, I got a couple of words. And then fortunately, I got one from here, but I need one more from here. Yes, that's you.
It's a lifelong.
Lifelong learning. And then, Theo? Hands-on. Hands-on. Okay, so, Constance, if you had any doubt that they were listening, these words show that people took note of something. I'll tell you what. You mentioned culture shock. Culture shock. My culture shock was the fact that the core subject took 20% of the engagement. I have to reflect on this for the next 15 minutes before I ask you that question. 20%, this one, it was a culture shock for me. Coming up next is the man that, you know, the two of you are very special. I have a list of people who I believe are building Ghana and they don't make noise. One of them is Mr. Zetkwe. One of them is Constance Swaniker. And one of them is the person that comes up next. I have several ways I could introduce him, and all of them will be very genuine and very accurate. But let me say that he's the author of this book called Feehi. For those who don't understand the royal language of Ghana, Feehi means all is well. And it is the story of the life of a man who grew up in a community where education was not exalted, but who rose to sit in the highest position as far as education is concerned. Anything else I see will be taking a story from his mouth, as they say in my hometown. He's the immediate past vice chancellor of the University of Professional Studies, Accra, UPSA. And whenever I drive past that campus and I see the Twin Towers, not the one in that other country, the proper Twin Towers in Ghana, with Abednego, Feehi, Okoe, Amartey written on it, I say we get Twin Towers. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Professor Abednego, Okoe, Amartey. Let's put our hands together as it comes.
Please take your seat. Thank you. I have not said anything, and you are giving me standing ovation. Reverend Okran, thank you so much. And Auntie Constance, I think you did the work for me. You laid the foundation. And you asked which word we picked out. Mine was the fact that, it's a sentence, the fact that you see the bed and you are asking whether you should sleep on it. I think that is my story. I would have asked that question if I was the one. And Reverend Okran, thank you. And you have a lovely young people here. I think this church has a future. When you see young people like this, you really know that there's a future there. And, well, so I think my story would help. It will cover all that we want to say. In 5 minutes, I should be able to tell you my story. A mother and a father, obviously, with 6 children, 5 boys and a girl. The first one was a boy, second one a boy, third one a boy. So naturally, you expect that the fourth one should be a girl, or they expected. The fourth one was also a boy. So the fifth one must be a girl, definitely. And the fifth one happened to be a boy, and that was me. And so when they gave the first one a boy, second boy, third boy, fourth boy, the fifth one they said a boy, so they said, well, let's call him Feehi, which means all is good, or all is well. So that's how come I got my name, that all is well. It's like, or if you want to, maybe they wanted to sound very diplomatic, but what they actually wanted to say is that, let's take it like that. That's what they meant, let's take it like that. And the thing is that they were not educated. My grandfather was a fisherman during the dry season, and a farmer during the wet season. My grandmother was a fishmonger, so the fish from the sea, we lived at La, close by the beach, she would go and sell. So naturally, the children were also fishermen and farmers, and they had 10 children. But the good thing about my grandfather was the fact that among the lot, as I grew up, he was the only person who had 1 wife with 10 children. I never saw anybody like that. I guess he was a good role model in that sense. 6 boys and 4 girls. The boys were sent to school, which was unusual. But the girls were not sent to school, except the last one. So my mother did not go to school. And so, of course, she married somebody who didn't go to school, was also a fisherman and a farmer. And they are 6 children, as I mentioned, and they all slept we were in the same room. So you can imagine, in the same room. But it was fun. For us, our mother was everything. And then, at the age of 13, I lost my mother. But because my uncles went to school, so they decided that we should also go to school. And it was unusual around that time for you to go to school at that age as a boy. So all our friends virtually didn't go to school. But when we come back, you can't play with them. And my uncles are very strict. Woe unto you if you go to the beach to play and you didn't go to school. We felt that they were cheating us because these guys who make money, they will get fish and go and sell it and have money in their pockets. And you will go to school, then they say mental and detention, and they'll give you lashes. But then they said we should go, so we were going. And then when my mother died, I had to go to Aquinas Secondary School. And Aquinas, if you know Aquinas Secondary School, is a cantonment. Very interesting place. Because Aquinas, by virtue of the location, you are those from Morning Star School. And all the big shots who were around cantonments, who didn't want their children to go to boarding house, they didn't to Aquinas. But also you had those coming from La, Usu, Teshi, Nungwa, and Nima. And for us, we walk 4 miles in and 4 miles out. In your white shirt, you had 1 white shirt and 1 shorts, a kaki. That's what you wear. And by the time you spend the first day and walk to La on the dusty road and come back, it turns brown. But you do it for 5 days. Now, compared to the gentleman who is living behind Aquinas, who at the age of 18, 17, 15, was driving to school, and yet they will change their white shirt every day. So naturally, the teachers will like these people, because for you, when you get close to the teacher, I mean, you could just say that you have a special perfume on you. It's normal. But then that was when I learned that education is a leveler. Because you had all these people, the rich, the poor, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all of us in the class. You had those who had money in their pockets and those who didn't have. It gave us opportunity to see how the rich look like. It gave us opportunity to see how they behave, how the way they dress, the way they do things. And then those of us from La and Teshi too were also part of them. Then I realized, that was my first impression, education can be a leveler. Education can be an equalizer. That it makes it possible for somebody like me coming from La, whose parents were fishermen and fishmongers, to now come sit with the son of the chief of defense staff, whose son was also in the class. What it did was that it gave us an idea that if you do well, you can also become a such people. It gave us the idea. Yes. And I recall one day, one of the guys who lived so close by, he was staying at Laboni. He used to drive to school. He came to school one day and was very, very upset. What was the reason? He said he had refused to drive to school to punish the mother. He refused to drive to school to punish the mother. Why? He said the Friday, they wanted to go to what we used to call the club. Those days, Babylon, Bamtavin, Media Number 1, KTK, Bus Stop. Friday, he said they were going to the club. And the mother said he should go with the sister. And he said he wanted to go with the girlfriend. The mother insisted. Because of that, he didn't drive. And the whole of this week, he's not going to drive as a punishment to the mother. And I said, please, I want to punish my mother like that by having a car to drive. But it tells you the difference, the gap. It's a gap between the have and the have-nots. But thankfully, education bridges that gap. Bridges that gap. What does education do? First of all, it allows you to acquire knowledge and skills. Research will show that when you acquire knowledge, you are more likely to earn higher than those who have not acquired knowledge. And nobody will challenge that. So skills and knowledge when you have education. And when I see the questions that they ask the question, the answers you are giving, it tells me that you have some knowledge and hopefully some skills. So education will allow you to acquire knowledge and skills. And so if I sit as vice chancellor, because I acquire some knowledge. Number two, education as a leveler, the benefit that it gives to you is the fact that it can help you to overcome poverty. I told you that my mother and father, 1 room, 6 children, all of us in that room, because they couldn't afford. But I go to school, I acquire some certificates, and now what happens? At least I can afford to live in a better place. What happens is that if you don't acquire education and your parents are also unlettered, uneducated, you are going to encourage poverty from generation to generation. What education will do, it stops that. So starting from you, you realize that you change that story. So it helps to solve the poverty problem. You may not be rich, but at least you can keep body and soul together by acquiring the basic things of life. The next thing that it can give to you is the fact that it's a cultural or social capital. Growing up by the beach, all my friends were those who go to the beach. Sons and daughters of fishermen and farmers. That was my world. Now I come to Aquinas, I go to Prempeh College, and I'm sitting in a class with the son of a president. Now suddenly, I have a friend that is in the corridors of power. Now I have people who travel outside and all of that. I gain that social capital because of what? Education. And ultimately, it affects the economy of this country. So there are so many things you can mention about what education can do as an equalizer and a leveler. And I'm sure that all of us can testify to that. Now, I have a short listing that I want to present to you. I have 5 minutes to do so. Why you must develop the winning mindset with your education. And I call it the lights. Please go to the next page for me quickly as I do this. Now, this is my favorite team, Arsenal. You can see Arsenal. This is my favorite team. Now, do you realize that each of them plays their position? But if you don't do well, you go and sit down, and somebody else will come. They say they are the substitutes on the bench. That's life. If you don't play your part well, there are always substitutes. Even in church, God has many substitutes. If you don't play your part well, somebody will come and play that part. In the same way with the workplace, if you don't play your part well, somebody will do so. Act well your part, for there or they analyze. And you see the empty chair, there is always a chair for everybody. There is always a chair. Now, people say that there's unemployment. But do you realize that? Now, check the papers. Go to social media. They always advertise for a particular position. Not that there are no jobs, but those with the requisite skills and qualifications are not available. If you develop yourself so well, you will get a lot of opportunities. When people say there's no job, ask for you, you have 5, and you still will say, I don't want any of them. So the first thing about education, and when you are developing your CV, you always see that in the CV. First thing you do in any CV, they say qualification. In other words, they want something to show. So if you choose to be a cobbler, a shoemaker, if you choose to be a football coach, if you choose to be a lecturer, choose to be a medical doctor, whatever, make sure that you have qualification for it. That is why elsewhere, even when you want to be a mechanic, you go to school. Because something must show. It's called an assurance. If you go to a place and say, oh, I'm a doctor, I can do surgery, and it says, I didn't go to medical school. Now what happens? You're not allowed him to do it because he doesn't have the qualification. So whatever you choose to do, get some qualification. That's the first thing. It's a necessity. Number 2, aside the qualification, you must have experience. So let me put it this way. Qualification is a necessary condition, but it's not a sufficient condition. Just because you have a paper doesn't mean you can do the job. So make sure you gain what? Experience. That is why when you see the adverts, they will say 5 years experience. No, you see, we get it wrong. You can help your mother. You can help your uncle. You can come to church. So they say presentation skills. It will amaze you that you can learn presentation skills in church. It amazes you that you learn how to dress in church. It will amaze you that you can have a flying tie, how to do it in church. You can learn how to use fork and knife in church. It will amaze you. So experience doesn't have to be formal, but you learn from others. Then the third thing that you do, aside experience, have a skill. It's one thing to have experience. More important, have a skill. It's called expertise. That's the ability to do things well. And that comes by training, by having a mentor, by learning. And when you do that, maybe one of my favorite scriptures is Hebrews 12:11. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, it produces a harvest of righteousness for those who have been trained by it. So training makes you become an expert in your field. And the final one, exposure. 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 What we call exposure is actually what we mean by intelligence. So you don't need to travel to US if you don't have the, but you can learn about things in the US. When you watch television, don't watch for the fun of it. Watch in terms of the things you learn. So even we coming here, there are things we can learn. It's called what? Exposure. So when you do a CV, four things they look out for: your qualification, your experience, your expertise or skill, then the exposure. All of this you can apply to your life. And I end that by what I call the 4 P's. If I say something and you have forgotten, don't forget these 4 P's. I say 4 P's must govern your life. The first P is that always be present. Whether it is work, it is church, it is family, if you're a father, you are a mother, whatever you do, always be present. Always be present. So they say they're calling for a meeting, be present. Workplace, be present. School, be present. Be present. The second P, some people are present, but they're always late. Second P, be punctual. Be punctual. Make it a habit to be at every function on time. And I dare say in time, earlier than expected. Be punctual. And the third P is that, put the third P for me, to participate. You should be seen. You should be known. Get involved. Don't just come to church and warm the pews or at school and all of that. If they give assignment, homework, do it. Be part of it. And the final P, which for me is the best, always prepare. Always prepare. Always prepare. What people call luck is no luck. It's for those who are what? Prepared. Opportunity comes to only those who are prepared. Because opportunities would always come in the form of a problem. Otherwise, everybody can do it. So those who take advantage of opportunities are those who are prepared and they can take care of the problem. Thank you.
Wow. I knew today would be great. While my guests get ready to take their seats upstage, which one word is on your mind from presentation number 2? Yes. Pardon? Strategy. All right. Yes. Reverend Cabo, which one word? Feehi. Charlie, they say take on like that. Take on like that. Feehi. I love it. Yes. Cultural and social capital. I love that. Yes. Qualification. Always be present. Present. So you are marking yourself present. You are here in person, not virtual. Yes. Say again. No. Use.
Education helps to overcome poverty.
Overcome poverty. Let me add generational poverty. Generational poverty. I love that one. Too much. Yes. You can also become a them. Oh, if you do well, you can also become like them. That happens when you are in the dormitory with the president's child. Charlie, it's not easy. Yes, 2 more from here. Equalizer. Do you guys still have equalizer? Sound system that has equalizer. There used to be something called equalizer. We just adjust it like that. Yes. A winning mentality. Okay. Yes. Skills, also known as expertise. Yes. Hey, if you don't play a part well, you'll be substituted. Okay, last one here, from here. Always prepare. I'm prepared for this interview with my guests, but I'll call them only one condition, that you prepare your difficult questions for them. I'll ask them the easier ones while I wait for you to ask them the more difficult ones. Constance and Abednego, kindly join me here. Let's put our hands together as they come. Thank you very much. Kindly be seated. Whenever your questions are ready, just signal me, and I will be happy to come to you. But let me start by, before I go to the tough questions on transitioning as a result of education. Constance, I couldn't wait to ask you this question. Two of them. I actually gave you a po. One of them is about 20%, and the other one is about nobody owes you nothing. Let's start with the 20%. Why would you let the core constitute only 20%, whereas elsewhere it's almost like there's no additional apart from the core and the focus on exams and chewing and pouring? Help us to appreciate.
I think for somebody who's coming in from industry, I always tell learners that nobody is interested in hiring a bad worker. So when we're looking out for staff, I'm not interested in your CV, but I'm looking at those soft things. So everything else has more weight than the CV that you present. And that's one thing, and that goes to also the slide. That academics is academics, but those things that crucially education overlooks is the 80% of what it takes for one well-trained manpower. And so when we talk about human capital, a lot of the times I think as educational systems think that, oh, let me just give you the certificate. No. But we're looking at a labor market that is a complete human being. And what does it take to produce a complete human being is what sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of the times, educators miss.
Prof, let me come to you. In my last interview with you, you spoke about some of the exciting innovations you introduced while you were Vice Chancellor. Let's touch on some of them that relate to less focus on exams and chew and pour, and some of the innovations you brought to broaden the horizon of the students you oversee.
Okay, thank you. So I put it this way. The system we've had is to have the notes of the lecturer to move to the notes of the student, to the notes of to the answer booklet, without passing through the head of the lecturer, the head of the student, so we learn nothing. And that has been the bane of our system. And I think that it's a colonial relic because they were training for the civil service. And so UPSC, one of the things we did was what we call the take-home learning. You don't need to sit in the exam room to write. It's a take-home. So you can have the questions. You can go and consult. But the thing is that you can't find the answer in any book. And this was what they did during the COVID era. The idea is to stimulate critical thinking and problem-solving skills. That you should be able to bring all the things you know from your environment to apply to the theory. That's one. The other thing too is about, a lot of the times it's not just about what you know, but how you apply it. So, for example, your presentation skills. We think that every student must know how to do presentation. It's a requirement in this day and age. Again, there's a verse in the Bible that says that for God looks at the man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the inside. We are human beings. So the first thing they want to look at your outward appearance. So the way you even appear is important. And I give the example of me teaching in Koforidua and going from Accra to Koforidua one hot afternoon, and the car breaks down on the way, on the mountains. And we're standing in the sun. And then a nice V8 was approaching. And then it goes where and stops. They called that I should come. Then we all rushed. Then he said, no, the gentleman in tie. I was the only one in flying tie. And he said I should join. And I used that to tell the students because of my appearance. Not because they cannot see what's in my head by looking at the way I appear. And these are some of the things that we insist that students must have. Presentation skills, your appearance, and problem-solving skills are some of the few things that we can do.
Let me push on to the words I've heard you use more than once. The world owes you nothing. In an era where it would seem that the opposite is the expectation of some people that, listen, my situation is tough, help me. Why would you say the world owes you nothing? And what is at the core of that philosophy?
I'm very big on the power of the mindset. And something that you said very profound, look at where I'm coming from. And a lot of the time people seem to resign to, but this is where I'm coming from. But the minute you begin to recognize that you have a mind that is much more powerful than your thoughts. And when I use those words, a lot of the times, the more disadvantaged people are, the more they think the world owes them something. And so, as soon as our learners walk through our doors, you earn a right to be here based on merit. But the minute you come through here, this is where it ends. There's also rules that are non-negotiable. And so we don't play the sympathy card. The world is not kind. You saw the chair that the minute you go, somebody will take your seat. And so you have to say to yourself that this is me versus the world. And I think it's important when we're developing grit and resilience in young people, especially with this generation of young people who are, very entitled. If you hear Prof's story, look at where, he's come from. I also shared my story of being in university where I was looked down upon. And so how do we encourage our young people, almost, pushing that, resilience in them for them to overcome their situations as well is something that would ensure that they will succeed as they go out there.
Prof, let me stay on the same subject and forgive me because I know a bit more of your story. I would prompt you on particular parts of it that I believe are instructive for today's conversation. You spoke about a time when you were in Koforidua and you came to an interview with so many other people, and what you did teaching a number of subjects and the power of how merit made you stand out from a number of people. If you could use that story to help us to appreciate how, instead of having self-pity, your effort can bring you forward in the midst of many, I think it will help somebody in the conversation today.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm very happy with what Constance just mentioned. I think that sadly, we get a lot of entitlement mentality among the young people. Maybe because they are so blessed. Because in our days, one shirt, one trousers, and you are dancing like nobody's business in church because you're just grateful. But these days, they have all the gadgets, and they still think that somebody owes them a living. Of course, not these ones. These are good ones, okay? It doesn't apply to them. A young man seeking to lecture. Stopped my job at VAT, coming to University of Ghana Business School, reading my master's, and I didn't have money to take care of myself. My colleagues were working, and they would come back and join the class. So I said, if I don't have work to do, then what do? I spend all my time in the library because I cannot afford. Those days, you attend first lecture 7:30, then maybe the next lecture is 5:30 p.m. Obviously, I couldn't go back home and come for the second lecture. So I'll spend my time in the library, and then I will learn. And then group work, I will end up virtually doing all the research. So when my friends come, I'll explain to them. And because I explain to them, they in turn will buy food for me. So barter system. Then obviously, it reflected in my grades. So one lecturer called me and said, oh, can you help me teach? Because I was finishing. I became TA in his office. The sad part was that no money attached. But I was still prepared because it was my interest to lecture. I would prepare very well. And because I was teaching so well, the elderly students amongst them now started inviting me for special tuition. So this Galamsey business started long ago, not now. So I'll go to the place, they'll give me transport, and then give me food to eat, and I was doing so well. So eventually, I saw an advert at IMS, then, now you comes, and I applied to go and teach at IMS. People said, this man is a very bad man, please don't go there. But I was interested in the teaching. So I leave University of Ghana campus, do my normal work, then go and teach, without telling the man that, my lecturer, Mr. Adi, that I was going to teach at IMS. End of the month, I was supposed to be paid. Then IMS boss calls me. Then he says, did you say you are from University of Ghana? I said, yes. He said, who is your boss? I said, Mr. Adi. Apparently, he knew him. So he called for a staff meeting, and he says, I'm an imposter. And he places the phone in the middle of everyone on speaker, called study. It rings on the other side. Then the man picks. He says, hi, Dr. Pata. He said, hey, Mr. Adi, how are you? He said, I'm fine. Everything fine, correct. Then he said, do you know a young man called Mr. Adi? At that point, if the earth called Okoe Abednego, at that point, if the earth had opened, I would have vanished. Because I didn't tell the man I come to do Galamsey here. So when he asked the question, do you know one called Okoe Abednego? The Mr. Adi said, oh, you want to employ him? He's very good. Take him. You could imagine. But don't forget that I have volunteered an entire year helping me study without a pursuer. Now it's come in a form of validation that it's more than money. On the basis of that, I applied to teach at All Nations University in Koforidua. They said, do you have an experience? I said, yes. Where? University of Ghana and IMS. These are the referees. You can check. So they employ me. It's a private university, small university. So virtually, you are paid peanuts. But I was interested in teaching. Because the money was small, people were resigning. And anytime they resign in the middle of the semester, which is unusual for a university, they will give me the course. I will learn and I will teach. So I ended up teaching virtually every course apart from accounting. And I will leave early morning, 4 a.m., and I'll get back at 11 p.m. There was a time when, on those days, they were repairing the breed road, so we had to use the latter one. And then, coming back from 11 p.m., the vehicle broke down on the mountain. 1 a.m., we were still there. Then we saw a madman coming. And people said, that's a god of the area. Come and see speed. But you go through all of that. And the following morning, you go the same way. So I see IPS. They are adverts that they want a marketing lecturer. So I apply. And I go for the interview. When I got to the place, I saw over 50. And I was like, hey, but this job, they say they are taking only one person. Who am I? Because I noticed people have MPhil, PhD. Me, what am I coming to do here? But they brought us forms to write the courses that you could teach. So courses are taught at Legon. I wrote them. Courses are taught at IMS. I mentioned them. And then all nations, I taught several courses. So within 2 years, I taught about 23 courses. I put everything on paper. Then I realized that those around me were writing 1, 2, 3. I said, I made a mistake. I should have written just 1 or 2. But it was too late. So they took the papers away. It was maintained. Then I get in there. 7 people. They were seated. At the time, that was 2006. IPS had started the degree program the year before. So they asked 1 or 2 questions. Then they asked, did you say you can teach all of this? And I said, oh yes. They said, where? They had mentioned University of Ghana, All Nations, IMS. Then they said, okay. Actually, we started a degree program. Our lecturers have gone on steady leave. We just want 1 marketing lecturer who can teach several courses. We think we fit this bill. So they said, you hear from them. I will hear from them. I leave the place. The letter comes. Out of the 50, with the MPhil and PhD, they just took the MBA guy. The rest is history. I'm here today.
Constance, let's talk about, I want to explore a bit of non-curriculum, the contribution of internships, attachments, unpaid work to this whole journey as we explore education as a leveler. How these contribute to the acceleration of your education. The unpaid ones, the internships, the attachments, the observations, how do they help?
So I think similar to his story, again, the issue of volunteering and not expecting any returns is also part of the growth trajectory. We live in a society now that, nobody wants to do anything for free. But if you've been given an opportunity, in our case, our learners who are on 100% scholarship, to the issue that they think that somebody owes you anything, paying it forward and giving back means that there's so many ways of giving back. You said something very profound about even volunteering in church. I think the last time I came here, I asked that, do they come and even clean and offer to even pack chairs for you? Because every Sunday they come, they rush to where the food is. But it's costing the church money. Without you asking, I would notice the learner who always shows up and is present. And if I had a job opening, that's the first person that I'll look out for. That young man who at 7 in the morning would always show up. And so my journey has always been also one of volunteering without expecting anything back. In fact, I interned in a carpentry workshop where I was a graduate or I was in university, and I was interning for a master craftsman, a carpenter. And my job was to sweep the whole workshop for 60 male carpenters. I did that for 5 years. In fact, it was so bad that the factory that I was working in, there was a Swiss man who was running the company then, Mahogany Furniture. I was working for a company called Abednego. The Swiss man said that this young lady shows up, I wasn't earning anything. I was earning the equivalent of 3 cedis then, after 5 years for transport. But I knew why I was going, and I showed up every single day. With that experience, I went to university, and I knew that as soon as I graduated, I was going to set up my own carpentry workshop. I set up Accent now 25 years ago, exactly 9 months when I graduated from KNUST. And we've grown and grown and grown. In fact, I only started paying myself only just 3 years ago. Again, because I had that mindset as an entrepreneur, you are the last person to pay yourself. So the issue about the hustle mentality, if you are not hungry, you are not driven, there's no way you'll be successful.
Wow. Round of applause for my guests. This is where I finally rise up and ask if you have a question for my guests. I could talk to them all day and not realize the time is going. But let me start with you. Joe Hupoti. All right, let's start with you.
Thank you, Reverend, for the opportunity.
First name and then who you are targeting.
My question is going for the two of them.
Choose one.
Okay.
You want buy one, get one free.
So it's going for Madam Constance. I'm asking that how can we educate this modern generation about these key values that are not recognized in today's world, like the values concerning working hard, not being paid, but you still have that energy to continue doing what you are doing, compared to today's young guys that are coming. If you are not ready to give them money, they are not interested in doing anything for you. So how do
have
we
you had a bad
educate
experience as a business owner? All right, thank you very much. So Joe is asking, how do you pass on, and that's for you, Constance, how do you pass on the same spirit of volunteerism? I'm going to come to you with that in a minute. Let's say Jojo.
Sure. So as a country, we have 1 million unemployed youth and 100,000 that come out every year to join that number. So with AI and other technologies at the moment that are essentially able to replace, even now, people's output, particularly at the lower level, how are we, so let's say you were the Minister of Education. How would you train a Ghanaian workforce that is able to not be replaced by tools, but be able to maximize their output using those tools to be even more effective? So that's my question for you.
Thank you very much. Let's take one more and then we'll settle down to chew on it. Barbara, please give her a microphone. First question is about the spirit of volunteerism. Second one is about inculcating technology. Let's hear for you, Barbara. How are you today? Much better. Good to see you. Give her a microphone that works because she's about to ask a difficult question. Hello, 1, 2.
Thank you. First of all, Uncle Prof, you are welcome to my church. That's my ex-vice chancellor.
Very powerful man.
He's a good man.
Give me a hard question.
But this goes to Auntie Constance. Auntie Constance, please, I would like to participate or enroll in your school. At my age, do I qualify? I have an artistic background. As a young lady, I wanted to pursue something in the arts. My parents didn't encourage me. As I've grown, I've realized that I still have a passion for artworks. And in fact, I sell artworks. I want to learn how to paint. I want to do something about carpentry because it's a skill that I would like to acquire. Thank you.
Round of applause. Before she answers the question, for those who are in DTI, you must be feeling very blessed that somebody at your age wishes they were at your age and had the opportunity. All right, so let's get Constance on this. First one is the spirit of volunteerism. Second one on embracing technology. And the third one about access for not young people. Is that the politically correct way of saying it?
I think forums like this where we have an opportunity to mentor young people. I'm very big on telling young people the truth. I have 2 sons. My 25-year-old drives my car, and I don't know how he fuels it. And I don't care to know how he fuels it. And I think when you don't cushion them, I believe in tough love. I believe in young people being told the truth. In an environment, in a society where integrity, there's a lot of questions around that. And so they grow up in an environment where, everybody demands something. And if you don't give it to me, I'll find another way to get it. We've lost all sense of values, sadly, I think, as a country. And so forums like this where, we're speaking to them. When they come to church, they also hear from Reverend. In fact, I'll tell you a story of a young boy that I live at home with. And he keeps stealing from me. And this is a young boy that I brought you into my home to give you an opportunity. I've paid for you to do our print. I mean, I treat him as one of my own. But the last straw, he now started forging documents. And I said, if I've given you many chances and you can now forge documents, now where it's getting to? So I had my security coordinator pick him up, and he has handcuffs on him. So I handcuffed him, and they marched him to the police station for a few hours. Scrapped all the toilets in the workshop. Yesterday, I got a call from his parents. Values. That one thing we cannot, and we don't accept where we come from, is for you to handcuff in our culture. So can he please come home for us to do certain rights for him? And this is the boy calling his parent that this is what I did wrong. And I thought, this again goes back to culture and socialization. So if you do this, this will happen. If you know, and I said, oh, this did the trick. So as to how you transport yourself back to go and do those rights that you claim from where you come from, your tradition, I said, oh, all my learners should hear this, especially from those up north, right? So of this custom or whatever it is. I said, oh, this did the trick. I said, I'll never do it again. I said, thank God.
Thank you very much. So let's push on to technology.
Technology. So fortunately, if you look at the work we do, creativity and all the soft things that, no matter, all the advances in technology, a robot cannot mimic emotions, cannot mimic creativity. And so when you look at the sort of skills that are even more crucially now, more important, this is where the soft skills comes in. And so when I looked at the 20% core academics that machines can do, how do we, invest on those things, those softer things that AI would never be able to mimic? And how do we also see the power of AI enabling what we're able to do? And that's where, to her question about the issue of upskilling and reskilling. And so if she's recognized that, I want to go back into the creative industry, the creative industry is poised to be one of the fastest growing industries in the world right now. And if you look at where all the trends are going, the creative industry, that's exactly what we're doing, preparing our workforce for the future of work. And so the curriculum that we offer must be actually relevant to the current needs of the labor market, and also to prepare young people for the future of work.
Incredible. Let me take a couple more. There you go. There you go. Why am I not surprised? You have lent us your founder. You want to ask her all the questions and not leave some for us. One here and then one here. So you haven't spoken. Hey, my good friend. Okay, I'll take one from you.
My question is, how is our educational system right now helping us if, as a child, you are not allowed to use your skills, like you know how to draw, you aren't allowed to use it, but they are always pressuring you to use books. So I want to know how our educational system is helping us now.
That's a tough one. How is our educational system helping us? Prof, stand by, I'm coming to you. How is our educational system helping us? Books. She says she wants to draw. Okay, I saw a hand up here. There you go. Hello, Albert, 1, 2. Put on all mics.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello. Hello. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So, my question is, how do you balance the gap between being in your comfort zone, volunteering, and also gathering experience? So, I don't know if it's understood, but how do you work those three things together?
Your first name again?
Johnson.
Johnson.
So, Prof is
Johnson.
my pastor.
Prof is your pastor. Charlie, are you volunteering in church? Okay. So he says the balance between the volunteering to gain experience and then being in your comfort zone. How do you find the right balance? Your first name again? Fauzia, the great Fauzia. Fauzia wants to know, is the education system helping us? Fauzia the great. All right. Yes, let's take yours.
Okay, sir. Prof, you talked about qualifications. Now, in Ghana here, if you have all the necessary qualifications, sometimes you go to seek for job. You get there and your qualification is higher than the person there. Nowadays, like, you can see a young boy, 18, 20, 21, and somebody at 30, 40 in a workplace, but the person who is 20, 18 years has a qualification that's higher than that person, and you go there to seek for job. Most of the times, what happens is you get there, you might not get employed because the person is afraid that if he employs you, you might take his work from him.
So the question is,
so what will you do if you find yourself in such situation?
First name is
Maxwell.
Maxwell believes that he can be a young person overqualified. All right, Prof, let's hear you. I'll come back to you right after Prof speaks. So, Prof, Johnson, Fauzia, Maxwell.
Okay.
Johnson about the comfort zone, the balance between the comfort zone and then the volunteering for experience.
Okay, so first thing, with Fauzia, so let's hold our hands up and apologize for all the young people for the kind of educational system we've run over the years, where the focus is on by rote memory, and we assume that the person who can recall is the best student. Now, obviously, it hasn't helped us. It's clear, the evidence is clear that that's not the way to go. If you make A's, they say go and be a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer, or business administration. Now, we are shifting from that, where the focus is on do what you are comfortable doing. And now we are trying to balance what you do with your hands, attitude, soft skills, and then all the other things. If you recall, of course, maybe you are too young, the original idea for JHS was to have workshops in all the basic schools, such that we encourage vocational skills and all of that. I don't know what happened. Within 2-3 years, we have collapsed all the vocational workshops, and we went back to the same old traditional way of doing things. Now we realize so now you have TVET, COVET, and all of that. Our hope is that we keep on emphasizing on these things more. But you see, there was a question about AI, IT, and all of that. And then Constance mentioned the fact that there is a shift towards soft skills. And that is where we are moving towards, that we begin to develop those skills more. And once we begin to do so, then it creates opportunities for the young people. So thankfully, we are learning. We are not there yet, but gradually we are moving towards a place where the focus is not solely on what you call chew and pour, but now you can use your skills. Can be you can use your hands, use your attitude, and make it. Is that all right? The second thing about the balance between the comfort zone and Johnson and then volunteering. A young person wants to have a comfort zone. If you had to be sleeping on the veranda, like some of us did, and you are lying on the bare floor of the mat, you won't think about comfort zone. The hunger level should be so high, such that you want to get to the top. Think big, start small. I guess you were in church when I said what people call comfort zone is the euphemism for being lazy. That we are too comfortable in ourselves. And that the way to make it is to break that fallow ground. Leave that comfort zone. And press till we get to the place where we now can say we are on our way to where we want to be. Then we can talk about our comfort zone. For a young person, this is not the time for comfort zone. For a young person, the hunger level will be so high that you are pushing to get to the top. The heights that great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flights, but they, whilst their companions slept, were toiling upwards in the night. That should be the attitude of the young person. And that I am pushing to get to the top. When I'm tired, I take some rest, but I still push to get to the top. By pushing doesn't mean you kill yourself, but pace yourself. If you are learning, you get tired, rest. But when you wake up, continue. So continue till you get to the place. Take rest when you are tired. Seek help when you have to. But then the hunger level still continue.
That was my grandfather's favorite quote. All right, there was
and
the
then
question
there was
from
about
Maxwell about being overqualified.
Yeah, being overqualified. It reminds me of, maybe it's the opposite, rather, where I was at IPS. I had CIM qualification, had MBA. But we were becoming a traditional university, and the qualification for being in the traditional university is to have research masters. Now here I was, HOD. And then I decided to go and do a research master's at the business school. And I've been there 2 years already. Go back to do MPhil in marketing. And I get to the place, and in my class, where students are taught at IPS, some of them I had failed them. And they were in the same class with me. And I was like, no, be Papa, the grown up, I think 2 of us. And they were calling me Mr. Okoe. And I had to go and relearn so that I can qualify to be, that I can call myself a proper lecturer. But I think those 2 years were the best years I had, because it was an open opportunity for me to go to Canada to go and do a presentation. Remember Prof recommending me to go and all of that. Because there are times when you have to go 1 step back in order to go 2 steps forward. There are times when you have to go 1 step back in order to go 2 steps forward. The issue is not about being overqualified. The issue is if you can do the job. Some of the experience, the fact that somebody thinks that I have the paper qualification, and I mentioned, now, the paper qualification is only a necessary condition. It's not a sufficient condition. Constance just mentioned where she, in the university, volunteering to do 5-year internship cleaning for somebody who is a carpenter. And it reminds me of what you said actually happened to me when I finished University of Ghana, economics department. You know, those of us that read economics, we thought that we were the big people to work in Bank of Ghana. That was not now that you have plenty of people. University of Ghana was virtually the only university at the time reading economics. And we were very few. And when you come out, you are a big man. But when I finished university in 1992, no job. I applied to all the big companies, no job. So finally, after 2 years, I applied to work as Star of the East at Taifa as a people teacher. And when I went for they said I was overqualified. So I wasn't taking. Even that one, they said I was overqualified. But I said I could do anything. I said, if you can do anything, then there is class 5. So you come and handle. And I had to teach from Ga and tree. Can you imagine me teaching tree? Teaching everything. And the children, I remember Charles Brown and the rest. And then they will come and say, sir, Charles beat me. Then I asked Charles, why did you beat him? He said he was insulting me. Okay, don't fight again. As a pupil teacher, solving problems. But I had to go backwards to do so. Then finally, I got VAT and moved on and moved on. Sometimes when you say you're overqualified, you are relying only on your paper qualification. Volunteer. Decide to do what others will not do. Forget about your paper. Attitude is everything.
Thank you very much. Our time is up, but I promise I'll take 2 questions only. Desmond, you are in church, so you can bring your hand down. Head boy. So let me give it to you. Yes. And I'll give it to you on the extreme. Stand up, let them see you. Yes, yes, yes. All right.
Good evening.
Yes.
Please, my question is from Madam Constance.
Madam Constance?
Yes.
AKA founder. Okay.
Okay. So I wanted to know, I would want to ask you, please, do you think you found your purpose? And if yes, when did you realize that was your purpose?
Thank you very much. Do you think you found your first name?
Mami Sewa.
Mami Sewa, you give the vote of thanks on Sunday. In person. You're a powerful woman. Yes, ma'am. Central leadership. First name.
Esther. Hello. Please, my name is Esther.
Esla.
Yes. So please, my question.
What's the meaning of Esla?
Esther.
Esther.
Yes.
What's the meaning of Esther?
Queen.
Queen.
Star.
You're a powerful woman.
Yes.
Your question. Queen.
Okay. So my question is, how can education be a leveler when everyone do not have access to equal education? So in context, there was a community I went to, which was a farming community. They had less teachers, and most of them were not qualified. And they just had primary school. And the students were in pair. Class 1 and Class 2 was in one class. Class 2 and Class 3 were in one class. And they didn't have the resource. So how would education be a leveler for such people?
Brilliant, 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 Esther. Okay, so let's end with the thoughts of Mami Sewa and Esther. And guess what? Even though she directed the question to you, I'm sure that in your remarks you'll be tempted to veer a bit into it. When did you find your purpose, and how did you know it was your purpose? And then for you, Prof, how can education claim to be a leveler when in some communities, what you call education, they have not even smelt it to say they've seen it or they've heard it? To close. 1 minute each. Let's say 2.
Finding your purpose. I think that's a good one. Well, you guys are my purpose, really. To the point of, being there for young people. I charted a path that I had to figure out a lot of things out myself. And so that's something that, when I decided to set DTI up, I recognized that, it's not about you, really. And that's something that I would also tell you guys, that it's not about you. But you get to a stage in your life as you start growing that you recognize that you're not challenged by how much money you're making, but you want to find a deeper meaning of what we call life. And I look forward to coming to school every day, because every day there's something up. There's no 2 days that are the same at DTI. And I think the challenge of working with young people and they testing the boundaries and also sharing and guiding you is what gives me the reason for being here. So I'd like to thank you as well for also giving me that purpose.
Wow. Round of applause. Constance Swaniker. Okoe Abednego.
That's right. That's a very intelligent question, because actually it's one of the arguments used against education as a leveler, that if you are not careful, it will rather deepen the inequalities. the have will have more, and those who do not have will not have at all. So you find people in certain schools, they have all the resources. In fact, research shows that 80% of those who go to the medical school in Ghana, they come only from 8 schools in Ghana. And those are the West Lagos, Prempeh College, PCH, and those places. So it's a real concern. But that is on the macro level. Now, you as a person, now it's been said amply, the fact that nobody owes you a living. I did my national service in Chuvupraso. It's a village in the central region. At that time, there was no light. They didn't have light, a farming community. But there was a gentleman who actually made it to Achimota School. And he got 3 A's in the A levels and came to a business school. Actually, he came to head SIC as the managing director. Yes, we all know him and all of that. But he came from the backside of the desert because he made it a point that I would not let Praso define me. So on the macro level, it's real. But when you accept the challenge as an individual, my uncle would tell me that they used to learn with the moonlight. And they would do so after they finished smoking fish and their grandmother had gone to sleep. Then their mother had gone to sleep. Then they would start learning. Because they accepted a challenge that these are the limitations we face. But how do I go beyond it? There are things you don't have control over, but there are things you have control over. Whilst as a country, we seek to bridge the gap. We seek to give computers to schools. There are places in the north where they use stones to teach computer, IT. They use stones. But I would encourage that young person to say, that should not break you. It should make you. Accept that challenge and say, because of these limitations, I will work extra hard so that I will be a role model. She just mentioned, it's not about you, but have a bigger picture and say, I am going to be that person that in spite of all the limitations I face at home, in the community, in this country, I still made it. And one day, somebody will look at you and say, this person, if he made it, then I can also make it. That's life's meaning.
Wow. Before I allow my guests to go back to their seats, on the wings of the very last point, I've had, for the past 16 years, interviewed different achievers from different fields every Sunday evening since August the 4th, 2008. And something that stuck with me was said to me by 2 different people at 2 different times. One of them was Dr. Ishmael Yamson. The second was by Professor Florence Abner-Dolphine. Both of them spoke about going to Saito, where you will see nothing good can come out of this. And both of them spoke about climbing to the very top of their field. In the case of Mr. Yamson, he talks about leaving the village and taking a car to go to the interview at Unilever and arriving there with his white shirt full of red dust on the collar, but very determined, cleaned up before he went in. And when they asked him what he's here to do, he says he wants to become the head of this organization in 20 years' time. And they give him the job. And exactly 20 years from that day, he was chairman of Unilever. Let me say a big thank you to you for throwing light on this very important subject about how education can pick a Saito person or can pick somebody from nowhere and give them an opportunity to become at the very top of the ladder of their lives. One more time, a round of applause for Constance Swaniker and Professor Abednego Okoe Feehi Amartey. Kindly go to your seats. Let's appreciate them as they go. Let me leave you with my closing comment from Daniel chapter 6, verse 3. Let's kindly do me a favor. Let's do what they do at Sunday school. Daniel chapter 6, verse 3. Let's go together. Then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm. Please, one more time. Daniel chapter 6, verse 3. Then this, I knew that was the problem. You mentioned Daniel's name. I didn't mean that. Then this Fauzia. Then this Mami Sewa. That was a mistake. Then this Adeline. Then this Seth. Then this Abednego. Then this Constance. Now you get it. Are you ready?